Previous to the bombing of Dresden, Germany had raided London in the Blitz. War had been raging for 5.5 years between the Allies and Central Powers. The war was coming to an end, and both sides were desperate for the war to come to a final conclusion. Churchill, still reminiscing the London raids and keen to bring the war to an end, decided to bring out old plans of bombing Dresden and gave the go-ahead on the raid. Dresden was a reasonably recent city and was a part of the eastward expansion of Germany. The elected ruler of Dresden, King Augustus II, had very extravagant tastes and invited many of the best painters, musicians, and architects in Europe to found the soon-to-be beautiful city. Dresden led the way and became the host of numerous stunning landmarks, including castles, churches, palaces, and art galleries. Norwegian painter Bernardo Bellotta created this artwork here, and that is displayed in one of the galleries. The official population of Dresden in 1945 was 350,000 inhabitants. Due to the influx of refugees trying to escape the fighting in the Nazi Party, it makes it near impossible to estimate the number of people in Dresden at the time. Between the 13th and 14th of February, an estimated 35,000 people were killed. This is highly debated, and prediction of the death toll vary. The Nazi Party posted leaflets of propaganda stating the raid was a massacre of refugees and posted an estimate of 200,000 deaths. Upon further research, it is roughly estimated that between 35,000 people died in the bombing of Dresden. Dresden's significance in the war was minimal. Due to a lack of resources, the factories could not effectively support Germany's army and were therefore useless, which is why the raid is so controversial. The 769 Heavy Bomber RAF was one of the planes used in the bombing, along with the 527 Heavy Bomber USAAF, accompanied by the 784 North American P-51 Mustang, which protected them from enemy fire. One of the reasons the raid is controversial is because Dresden had no air defense. Prisoners of war at the time were held in Dresden, and here are a quote from a prisoner who was in Dresden at the time. "The screaming of those being burned alive. The city became a torch. Dresden had no defenses, no searchlights, nothing." Upon reflecting on that, it seems like the attack was very, very personal and in angst, rather than for military gain, which is one of the reasons why it's very controversial. Over 2 days between the 13th and 14th of February in 1945, England bombed with normal shell bombs that they'd been using throughout the war, and then secondarily with fire bombs that lit the city on fire. The raid was controversial because the city had no military gain, and that also meant there was no military gain for Britain in attacking them. The only thing was that it was a conjunction between two places. It was seen that it was done in angst against Germany because they killed civilian lives. And the battle was seen as a win for England because they were successful in blowing up the city of Dresden. So to conclude, in my opinion, the Battle of Dresden is controversial for all the right reasons. And even though both at the time were trying to destroy each other, and if Germany had the power to completely blow up London, they would have. It's not an excuse to go and kill a defenseless general population in a city that is not important to the war. And on Churchill's behalf, and London and England and the Allies, it was the wrong thing to do, and they should apologise for what they did. But at that time in the war, everything was very heated, and lots of people made lots of mistakes. And there's too many to go around for everyone to apologise, so it's understandable that nothing major ever came of it. But it's still an interesting part of history that we can reflect on and understand that both sides were really, really bad, and no one was really in the right in World War II.